Hi everyone, this is Hao again. Today is August 17th, and so it's been, I guess, about 17 days since I started this CJK challenge. It's been pretty busy. I would say I didn't have that much time to study, but I did try to find a way to structure it into my life. And I thought today I'm just going to give a quick update to let you all know how I'm doing and to make sure, or to give myself some accountability. So what have I done in terms of CJK? So maybe we could structure it in terms of the languages. So first, in terms of Chinese, I'd say since it is my native language, it isn't too much of a difficulty for me, but I have been working hard on my classical Chinese. I do use it for my academic work, but I do try to do more leisure reading in classical Chinese to really bring up my level. So I've been skimming through these two books, very famous books on classical Chinese. So this is called 古文观止. So it's like a collection of the best classical Chinese texts over the centuries, and it's been a big inspiration to many modern Mandarin writers. And yeah, it's just a really useful collection that I sometimes just skim through as kind of leisure reading to really hone my classical Chinese skills. And for my thesis, because I'm working on this particular philosopher called zhongzi, so I'm also been reading this. It's pretty cool. It has the original text and then a bunch of commentaries. And so it's been pretty useful for me as well, really, to just get me working on classical Chinese, and especially I think this is one of the more difficult texts out there. So this is good because as you may know, many of the usages of the characters in Japanese and Korean derive from classical Chinese, and so I think working on classical Chinese really strengthens my understanding of these characters. And in the meantime, I've also been reading reading a few secondary research articles in Mandarin for my philosophy thesis. So that's been a pretty good linguistic workout, I would say. And moving on to Japanese, I wouldn't say I'm at a comfortable reading level, but I do try to get more input. I think what has been really useful for me was just watching anime as part of my breaks, right? So I've been watching things like Isekai Ojisan and Saiki Kusuo no Sai-nan. So these are both available on Netflix, and it's pretty convenient because they do have Japanese subtitles available for all regions. So I just watch those for my recreation and just put on pure Japanese subtitles. So if you are the kind who likes anime, I think this is really good because based on the theory of comprehensible input, you do want input that is engaging and which you are invested in knowing what's going on. So I do like both of those shows, and so it is really helpful for me to really the interest of the show pushes me to try to understand more of what's going on. And I am at a proper level where, with all the animation and things going on in the show, I can get an idea of the story. And yeah, another good thing is I watched Saiki Kusuo no Sai-nan before. So even though the dialogue, if you've watched the show, the dialogue is really fast, but I think it may have helped me really just being able to scan Japanese a lot faster. For Japanese, I've been playing these games, the Ryuga Gotoku series, and it's been pretty fun. I've played Zero before, the first one. I mean the prequel, right? So I do know the story, and I managed to get the Japanese editions for Zero and the sixth one, the Inochi no Uta. So essentially I'm just learning Japanese during my entertainment time. And lastly, for Korean, I haven't had much time to do it. I went to Korea recently, so I bought this book, which I'm pretty interested in. It's like a Hanguk cheolhaksa, so Korean philosophy history. So I have really been interested in Korean philosophy for a while. I think especially like the Korean Neo-Confucians, it is quite continuous with what I am studying in terms of Chinese or East Asian philosophy. So this is a book that I would really want to read, and I did do like an online course on the topic. So unfortunately, because as you know, Korean mostly uses like Hangul, so even though I'm familiar with the terminology, it's very hard for me to really know what Hangul corresponds to the specific Hanja. So this is a difficulty because let's say in Japanese, usually the more technical the text gets, the more it converges with like Chinese, and so it paradoxically becomes easier for me to understand with the characters. And this is also true with, let's say, the Romance languages or just Western languages in general, because technical vocabulary tend to be very similar across languages. And so when you get into more like technical or academic literature, you do find that somehow it's easier to read that than like casual conversation. But for Korean, the difficulty for me right now is really starting from the Hangul and trying to see what, or trying to understand what the original Hanja are. And I think my Korean is not at a level where I could conceivably understand this. So I do need to find new ways to really work on it and to get good input. I think, yeah, I'm gonna try watching more movies and TV shows. I think that would help. That's really my progress so far. I haven't been able to do much structured studying because, so I ordered some books from China, but they haven't arrived yet. So I am waiting for those to come so that I can really work through some of these textbooks meant for Chinese speakers, which I believe will be more efficient for me because there's so many similarities. And yeah, maybe one other update is I recently had a chat. As you might remember, we did say that the CJK challenge, we do want to explore other varieties of Chinese apart from Mandarin. So I recently had a Zoom chat with the creator of this website called Learn Teochew. So Teochew is a dialect in the southern part of China, and that is, in fact, that is where my ancestors are from. And so I've been really interested in the language for a long time. Like my dad's side, they like speak it all the time, and I hear it a lot, but I've never really picked it up. So I had a nice chat with that creator, Brandon, and he did point me to some useful resources that hopefully I can make into a video for those of you who might be interested in that language. Yeah, so that's really my progress in terms of CJK. I would like to do more structured studying, but I have been quite busy with my studies and research. So let's see. But I do think as it is now, it is quite an efficient way to do it because I have like my study, and for my entertainment, I'm working on my languages. So it's almost like every part of my day is educational in some way. And I think that is one of the reasons why I got into learning languages in the first place, because it turns entertainment into a learning opportunity. So yeah, that was a quick update. I guess I could have done more within this past 17 days, but you know, learning languages is a marathon, so I don't want to overexert myself so quickly. And I do think one of the keys to language learning is just having fun. So, well, I've been having a lot of fun, so I'll consider it a success. Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to spend the whole of my life on language learning, but just try to fit it in the free spaces in my day and see what I can accomplish. So some of you have mentioned wanting a more structured challenge. Maybe I will try to come up with something like that, but we have been having this research seminar for my major in order to complete a thesis. And I think one big lesson I took from that, which is applicable to language learning, is that the process is more important than the result. So usually I'm a very result-oriented person, but I think in this case, just stressing out about the results in terms of language learning, or it takes away from the enjoyment. So I think that's why I've been trying to focus on the process and just talking about what I'm doing instead of setting like concrete goals. I know it may not work for some of you though, so I don't know. I'll have to think more about whether to set these goals. But yeah, feel free to leave any suggestions you might have in the comments. But meanwhile, I hope this has been fun, interesting, useful in some way. And yeah, if you want to make your own update videos on your progress, so you can feel free to do that and just hashtag CJK challenge. As always, thanks for your support and interest, and I will see you soon in another update.